combining data frames. In this series of combining data frames, in the first video, I explained about how to join the data frames one below another. If you have not seen that yet, please watch that video by clicking the link showing at the upper right corner right over here, and we are also providing the link in the description section. This is the second video in this series in which we will learn how to combine the data frames side by side using join and merge, both of these two things separately. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. To understand the concept very clearly, please watch the video till the end. Once you are done with watching the video, please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Now before we start, I would just like to give you some idea about how join works. First we will learn about join, then we will learn merge. So in joining, let's say if we have this data frame and the another data frame and we want to join them together, something like this. Alright, where if you notice the index in first data frame, third and fourth, and the index in second data frame, third and fourth is common, right? So that's why in the resulting table, if you see, we have the matches from second table for those indexes only. We don't have any match for those indexes where the indexes are not common. So to conclude, joins work on index numbers and not on the columns. So if you want to join two tables using join method, then you'll have to make any one of the column as index. Let me take you to the Jupyter notebook and try to explain you with certain. Here we have two data frames, cast and tran. To see this is the first data frame where we have 5 records with invoice ID, city, customer type, gender and rating. Then in the second data frame, tran, we have again 5 records with these many columns. Now we will try to join both of these two tables together using the join method. For that we will create another table, let's say df.joins. And for that, to use the join, first you need to use your left table name. For me, it is cast. And then I need to say join. In the bracket, I need to provide the second table name, that is the right table name, which I want to join, which will be tran in our case. Then there is a parameter called L suffix. So why do we use this? There are two parameters, L suffix and R suffix. All the parameters or arguments which are supplied in join, that you can check by clicking on this method and pressing Shift tab from your keyboard. Expand this and here you can see all the parameters. Other means the second right table name. Here we have the method to join, L suffix and R suffix, like you can see over here. So in L suffix, what does it mean? For example, at many point of times, for example, in these two tables, if you see, there are two columns which are common in both of these two tables. Invoice ID, rating, invoice ID and rating. So when you join both of these two together, there will be overlap. Let me show you the error which we get. Like you can see over here. So it gives you the error, columns overlap but no suffixes specified. What are the columns which are overlapping? Invoice ID and rating. So for that reason only, you can use either L suffix or R suffix, or you can use both. So when I say L suffix and I need to supply some value to suffix the common columns in left table, right? So I will say underscore cost. So what is it going to do? This will rename the invoice ID and rating as invoice ID underscore cost, rating underscore cost in the resulting table. Let me show you the results now. df joins. Like you can see over here. So first let's understand the joined values. So like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, these all were common index in both of these two tables. So that's why we have the value for all of the records as matching, right? So both of these two tables has been concatenated side by side. because index were common in both of these two. And then if you see cost, if you check out the left table, invoice ID is suffixed with cost, rating is also suffixed with cost. Now here is one thing which needs to be noted. Look at the second invoice ID and over here second invoice ID. Both of these two are not same, yet we have both of these two data frames combined side by side. Why is that so? Like I said in the very beginning, this is happening because of the index. Indexes are common in both of these two tables. Let me show you what happens when we don't have index same. So for that I will create another table called tran1, and in that I will set tran table. In tran1 again I will create another variable called new index, and for that I will create I'll supply some value for index. Let's say 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. And then let's see tran1. Now we have this new index variable created over here, right? Now I will set this variable as the core index of this particular data frame. How can I do that? Again, in this same data frame, I will say tran1 dot set index. You can use the function set index to change the index of a data frame. You can use any one of these variable as the index. So here I am going to supply new index, and then I will print tran1. Oops, this shows an error because here I have misspelled it. Now here we can see we have index changed. New index column has been set as the index of data frame. Whatever you want you can use over here. Let's say I want to use total variable, or maybe the cox variable. Let's use total. Let's see what happens. In total we have duplicate values while it should be unique, right? So that's why it is not using that cox. So any column which has unique value in your data frame, that can be used as the index. So for now in our example we're going to use new index variable, so that I'll keep as the index over here. And now I will try to join both of these two data frames as I did in the previous example. Data joins 2. In that I will again use the same method cust.join, and in that bracket this time I will use tran1, and then I am going to say l suffix, or let's use r suffix this time, and here I will say underscore tran. Let's see. So like you can see, though we had common invoice IDs in both of those two data frame, but just because we don't have common index number, we are not getting any matches over here, right? So this is how the joins work. Join always works on indexes. So in this case, if you want to join two tables based on some common column, so make sure that you make that common column as the index in one of the data frame. For example, I will show you in tran. Let me just create tran2. And in that I'm going to say tran set index, and here I will use invoice ID as the index variable. Now invoice ID has been, because invoice ID was something which was unique and common in both of these two data frames. That's why I decided to make invoice ID as the common index column in second data frame. Now I will try to join this thing. df joins 3, and in that I will say cust join. In that I'm going to say tran2, and then I will this times again I will use r suffix, and here I will say tran. Then again I'm going to print this, and let's see the result. Oops, there is one problem. So when we change the index, now again we need to supply the variable on which we want to make the join. So for that we will say on, and in that we are going to say invoice id, and let's join this. Now you can see wherever the invoice id was common in both of these two data frame, for that we have got the match from second table, and wherever it was not common we have NaN over here, right? Like you can see over here. So the things which needs to be remembered is, if you are going to use join, then first you need to set a common variable as index and use that variable in with on parameter. So you might be thinking this is a lot of work while using the join. For that only, and for this solution, we have merge functionality. So like you can see over here, join is the functionality of cust, that means data frame, and merge is the function of pandas, and here join was the function of data frame. Let's try to see how does merge works. Again we have two tables, cust and we have tran table original here, right? Now we don't want to change the index, we don't want to set a new variable as index. What we want to do is simply join, right? So let's see how can we do that. Df merge, we're gonna create another variable which is called table which is called df merge. For that we will use pd.merge, and in that we are going to provide both of these two data frames one by one. First the left table, and then second the right table which is tran. Then we need to supply the variable on which we want to make the join. So on which variable we want to join this, invoice id, because that's the common variable in both of these two tables, invoice id. And then we need to supply the suffix like we did in the join as well, right? So that it will rename the common column in both of these two data frames. The common columns which we have is rating and invoice id. So we will supply here itself in the bracket, we can supply the suffix for both of these two tables. So we will say cust, that will go for left table, and then we will say tran underscore tran, which will work for second table. Now let's see if this gives some error or works fine. Bingo, it worked absolutely fine. Like here you can see in the results we have the records which were where invoice id was common in both of these two tables. So in both of the two tables we had 5 records, but in result we have only 4 records. Why is that so? That's because by default, if you don't provide any join method, merge uses the inner join. If you want to understand the joins, I am providing the link of a video which explains you join in terms of proc SQL, that you can watch and understand the joins only. Over here what we see that there was one index number which was not common in both of these two data frame. That was this. In left data frame we had 3109, in left data frame we have 3108, in right data frame we had 3109. So that was not common, that's why it is not appeared over here. Now if you want to fetch all the records from left data frame but the matching records only from right data frame, you just need to say, here we have one parameter which is called how, and in that you can supply left. Now if you see, all the records from left table are available over here, while only the matching records from right table are available over here. You can change this at any point of time. just by changing the value in how parameter. So like you can see it over here, all the values from right parameter, if you can see, this invoice ID for second index is 3109, like I was saying. So all the values we have from right table, these are the values from right table, and matching values only from left table. So this is how merge works. Now, a couple of more things which I would like to show you over here. Here we have taken all the variables from both of these two tables. What if you want to select some specific variables only from right table? Let me change it to left join, because that's what we need over here, right? So here I will just supply only specific variables from right table. So what are the variables that I am interested in from right table is quantity and then costs. Obviously, I will have to keep invoice ID, otherwise we will not get any matches. The common column we need to keep by anyway. So if you see, now we have the less columns. We have only two variables from right table, all the variables from left table. In the same way, you can also fix the required columns in left table as well. So you just need to supply the common column in both of these two tables. Please bear with me. Common columns in both of these two tables and the other required columns, which can be, for myself, it will be gender. So from left table, I picked only invoice ID and gender, and from right table, I only picked quantity and costs. So this is how you can use the merge. Now there can be one more scenario when you don't have any common column in both of these two data frames. When I say common column, this time it means common column name. Though the value can be same in both of these two data frames, but the names are different. For example, in left table, you might have name invoice ID. In right table, this can be something else. Let's say customer ID, right? So how can you deal with that? For that, let me just quickly rename the variables in both of these two data frames. To rename any variable, you can simply say data frame dot rename, and over here you need to supply columns, and you need to provide a list of columns for this data frame which you want to rename. Invoice ID, and to this I want to make invoice ID cost, or let's say cost. And then the second table, tran, here I'll make this tran. Here also I need to change it tran, and here also I will change it to tran. Now let's see cost 1. Like you can see, this has been changed. In the same way, in tran 1 also it has been changed to invoice ID this. Now, if you use this technique to merge these two data frames, then this will not work. The reason is, here we had invoice ID in common in both of these two tables, but now we don't have that. We have invoice ID tran and invoice ID cost. Then how it going to work, right? So first let me use the proper data frame names, which is cost 1 and then tran 1. Now I will pick the common the variables which I want to use for joining here cost, and here it is going to be invoice ID tran. Then another parameter which comes is left on. Please bear with me for this thing. Not left index, it will be left on. In left side, I want to use invoice ID cost, and in the same way for right on also we need to use, we will say right on, and here we're gonna say tran. And then let's try to check this. Here we got some error, invoice ID trans. It's again a spelling error over here, please bear with me. Somewhere I have written trans, which I got this, it's right here, which I needed to fix. Now let's see again the second. Here it says we can only use either on or left on or right on. By mistake, I have kept all the parameters previously which I had used on. Both of these two things cannot be used together, which obviously does not make any sense when we are already using left on and right on. Let's see this. Now this has been joined and we have the result which we wanted. So this is how you can use merge function provided by pandas and join function provided with dataframe to combine two or multiple tables together. I hope I was able to clarify this thing. Just in case if you have any doubt, please do not forget to put that into the comment section. We will definitely try to get back to you. Until then, practice, 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 and happy learning. All the best.